Yeah, no, it's a trip. I mean, I never expected to end up down here, for sure. I mean, it's a total dream, and totally honored to be able to work for that magazine. But I think, growing up in BC in that kind of isolation, it kind of creates two things, which is, I mean, just the passion for the outdoors. Because, I mean, what are you going to do? Sit around all day indoors? You're going to get out, you're going to ride, you're going to explore the world around you. And also just total fascination with media, because, we didn't really have TV.
Can't take it for granted.
No, and like any kind of contact with the outside world was really limited. So anytime I got my hands on any media, I was just obsessed with it. I would read every single magazine, cover to cover. I would read the credits, every single
credits on the advertisements.
Yeah, no, every single word from cover to cover of every issue, and I'd read every single magazine.
Wow.
And then that would be like the first 2 weeks of the month, and I'd be like, well, what am I going to do with the next 2 weeks until all the issues come out?
I was that way with surf magazines.
Dude, kids today are spoiled. Yeah. I almost think of that because we just, on the break, we were talking too about like Creatures of Habit, which was like an old school snowboard video, and it had like skate and other stuff. I probably watched that video, not even kidding you, 1,000 times. It's like now I think there's so much stuff with the internet that people that just every day, I don't know if even people watch same things twice anymore. It's like, it's not like
they're missing a lot.
Frothing. Jim?
Yes.
In there for you. Frothing
we
for
like
new,
to froth.
Yeah, for new material all the time. Like so.
Well, that's, it's kind of harder to build stars, I think, because of that. Because in those old days, you had those set couple guys, the couple guys that were in the movies, and movies were limited. The amount of pages in the magazines were limited. And it was, a narrow field who could really get in there. And just like me, I would just look at those guys, 100 times a month and just embed those guys into your brain. And now it's just like, I mean, anyone can be a star. If you got an Instagram account, you got a creative idea.
Totally agree, but the people who really flourish, typically the athletes that really flourish, they're like the most exceptional. You have like this huge crop, Instagram, Facebook, you have YouTube, you have all these, but the ones that like prevail are the most amazing athletes out of all of them.
Yeah, no, typically
is that how you
cream
feel?
Rises to the top.
Yeah, is that how you feel working in the magazines and seeing all these kids nowadays? Like, what's your take on it?
Yeah, I mean, I think the internet's made it more democratic, for sure. Like, it's not like a cartel of people or someone's going to pick who the star is. An individual with talent can rise to the top, as you said, on their own merit, because they can gain fans. If they're doing something extraordinary, that's going to get seen and that's going to get recognized, and it's much easier to identify those people rather than, kind of shot in the dark like it was before.
So who were some of the fans that you were looking up to at that point? Basically, take me maybe another five or 10 years past the shoplifting incident.
Some of the guys I was looking up to.
Yeah, like the early sort of, but in the stage where you were wise enough to really know.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, Noah Slasnik, Jamie Lynn, Brian Aguchi. Like, the really cool thing actually is to see like Jamie and Brian still on Volcom today, and like Brian having a pro model with Arbor. And those guys are still ripping. And it's actually some of the most inspiring stuff because now they're in their 40s and they're still showing us the way. It's like they showed me the way when I was a kid. And now, it's like, oh, cool. Like when I get into my 40s, I can still be ripping too. And I still should be.
Gooch is so rad. I don't know if you've seen any of this stuff. He's just still killing it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm lucky enough to actually have his number in my phone now. I called him when I went to Jackson at the beginning of the year, and we went shredding together. And
Mark Carter's another. Jackson, for some reason, all the rad dudes are up there right now, it seems like.
Oh, it's because it's a true mountain town and a true mountain environment. The mountain's steep. It's fast. You go there and ride hard.
Hole?
Yeah.
Ugh,
and Carter has his Carter Country beef out there, so we had some Carter Country beef tartare out there as well.
Nice.
Yeah, got into it raw.
Nice.
No comment?
No,
I'm not touching it.
So wait, basically,
he lost you at tartare.
Sometimes him and Brett, they
out
stare
there
into each other's eyes and they laugh about something we don't
for
know
reals
about.
has cattle out there and like
he has a cattle ranch.
Yeah,
yeah.
That's
yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Why
Wyoming,
wouldn't you?
dude.
Why wouldn't you? Exactly.
It's so so some of those guys are going to be so different from what we think of when you think of, oh, pro snowboard guy down here. It's like some young guy. It's like he's like literally like hunting, fishing, ranching, and then, this guy you would never think, and then all of a sudden he's just like charging the gnarliest lines you've ever seen.
UTVs, sleds, probably does the whole deal, huh?
Yeah. It's just a whole different kind of athlete from what we think of like our SoCal snowboard rock star kind of guys.
Right, totally.
It is definitely different than the SoCal scene.
And no, it's like they have a huge respect for the mountains and huge knowledge of the mountains. And I mean, you have to out there because it's big and it's consequential and it's not, playing in the park in SoCal.
So what about those photos? Explain to me this. Some of the most compelling photos I've ever seen have been on the cover of these videos where, and forgive me, I'm blanking on his name. He's like one of the biggest names in backcountry, Red Bull guy, heli guy. And you'll see him like...
Travis Rice?
Yeah, it's either Travis or actually there was another one I was thinking of. But he's basically backflipping off of some cornice in Alaska somewhere, and it looks like he's dropping 300 feet straight down before he grabs some vertical cliff and rides it the rest of the way down. Like those, not being a pure snowboarder, those things freaked me out at a level that really got my attention. And so when did that level of snowboarding really become real?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting in some ways. Like the line riding has actually been there since like the early 1990s. Like some of the lines are actually being rewritten again, and they were still gnarly then, and they're still gnarly now.
Yeah, like you watch old Sonny Miller snow videos and whatnot, and ski videos. I mean,
Sonny
Is it
Miller?
Sonny Miller or
Sonny Bono or Wes Miller?
Sonny Bono.
Warren Miller?
Warren Miller.
Yeah. That guy.
Yeah, well, I'm talking more about like TB2 standard films. That's kind of where I first got exposure to that stuff. But yeah, it's interesting. The level has definitely increased, I think, because equipment has got better, riders have got smarter, they take care of themselves better, they work out now. It's not just like a total party scene anymore, because to ride at that level and to have any longevity in your career, you really have to take care of yourself. You can't just be out there partying. And I think, that's what we've seen, a big transition with some of the guys like the Wildcats, who are like legendary Canadian partiers. Devin Walsh, another guy who's, just about to turn 40, still really at the top of his career and killing it. He, had to learn that lesson and make that transition as well. But, it's also interesting because I remember in the mid-90s, or when I first moved to Whistler in 96, everyone was just like, people can't go any bigger, they're going to kill themselves.
Right.
And 5 years later, people, they can't do it, someone's going to die. And then, we've been really lucky in snowboarding in terms of fatalities, really, and people have really continued to push it. And, I think the limit is still to be found.
I remember, you remember a guy named Tex Davenport?
Yeah, of course.
What a wild man that guy was. And there were so many like him, but he stood out to me
Matt
also.
Goodwill, another,
Rippey.
yeah. Jim Rippey, yeah. He was the first guy to do a backflip on a snowmobile.
Yeah, see, these guys were just wild.
Yeah.
There was you can go off. There's such a great history of riders that you can just go. You can go into the Craig Kelly. There's so many old school guys that are awesome. Damian Sanders, a lot of those guys. Name dropping all the old guys.
Phil Sims.
Right?
Even though
Phil
he was
Sims.
left-handed,
No, Phil Sims is a football guy, but what's the Sims guy?
Tom Sims.
Tom Sims.
What's your take on that? Like, you guys are talking about maybe because I'm a little bit younger. What's your take now on the athletes that are filming nowadays? Like, I know a couple guys just through like working at certain events and whatnot. Like, some guy that pops out in my mind, Aaron Niemela. Sorry, I don't know how to say his name.
Aaron Niemela.
Yeah, Aaron Niemela. He's a buddy of mine, and I don't even know how to pronounce his name. Sorry, Arrow, but he, I've seen some of the movies that he's featured in, and how is the snowboarding industry really transforming? What does the consumer now look for? What are the kids nowadays really watching? Because Arrow, I see, he goes out in the backcountry and just sends it off these insane, backcountry built jumps. They had to have gotten dropped there by the heli or something. But what is it now that's really driving the snowboarding industry besides, your typical competitions?
Yeah, I think definitely the internet again and just social media has totally changed the way that we look at snowboarding, because it used to be forever this idea that you just have to go out and do exactly what Arrow's doing. Go into the backcountry, find a jump into a pristine landing, try to land your trick. If you can land it first try, that's kind of like, the highest standard, really. Now it's really changing because you see, Marcus Cleveland comes out. He does some like basically flatland flip. He's doing like flatland 1080s, just like mini bike stuff on the hill. But that stuff's going crazy, getting millions of views on social media. And then these guys like are putting out these parts that they kill themselves to put out, and they work so hard all winter. And it seems like some of them are getting less attention, and it's kind of like that really like accessible stuff on the one level that you can do on a ski hill, or like the craziest stuff like the quad corks. Like actually this spring we saw Billy Morgan, he did the first backside quad cork, and then Max Pro did the first cab quad cork, which was kind of debatable. Some people call it a quad backflip. There's a bit of controversy around it. And yeah, so that stuff gets a ton of interest as well, but it's more of like the spectacle. It's kind of like to the Red Bull Rampage level, right? Like the average person is like, wow, but that's cool. I'm never going to do that. But I think it's good to have that balance, because when you have, a lot of the stuff like the carving tricks or the flatland tricks that are getting a lot of attention, it shows that people want to get out there. They want to shred. They want to see like, hey, what's the stuff that I can go tomorrow and go do in the Bear Park or go do up at Mammoth, and I don't need to hit an 80-foot jump to do that.
Well, go ahead.
Go. No,
Well, I want to ask you about what you think of this whole big air deal that was brought here. It's been going on in Europe for a little while, and now they just brought it here. They had it in LA at USC, and bringing snowboarding to the people and the masses in that way. I think Shaun White's involved in it now. And then I want to transition into your new role, actually, as the Dew Tour, because we don't have a ton of time, and I want to get into your input, get some insight out of you as your new role with the Dew Tour. So what do you think of that style of event at this point?
Yeah, I mean, I think likely a lot of people are there for the musical acts. I mean, the musical lineup at Aaron Style is insane.
Yeah, you kind of have you have a guaranteed winner of attendance because of that.
Yeah, and so you get a lot of exposure for snowboarding because of that, but I think the big question is it the right kind of exposure? Because if you don't know anything about snowboarding, I mean, we in SoCal got to give people credit that they probably know something about it, but it kind of is like, oh, that's what snowboarding is. You hit like a jump and flip around a bunch of times in the air, which is, it's not really about that. It's about going and shredding with your friends. It's about exploring the world around you, it's about getting outside and having a good time, really. And however you want to do that. So
really poses the question, are we using snowboarding to engage people or just entertain people?
Well, snowboarding at all action sports, they work only as participant sports. They're not spectator sports. So you can have something like football and basketball, baseball, and that can be a thriving model, and no one even has to play baseball. I mean, okay, you need your guys to come in and fill the pro ranks. But action sports is not in a healthy spot if we don't have millions of people participating in it.
Right.
And that's the big difference. So if you are framing everything around that model and the idea of just creating spectators and not actual participants, we have a big problem.
Right.
So
you balanced it a little bit there. First you said it can, but it does operate in both spaces. But you really clarified it there when you said in its healthy role, it is operating most, from a percentage standpoint, very high in the engagement, and then there is a role for it as a spectator sport as well, of course.
yeah,
it's not healthy if it's just a spectator sport and you don't have people participating.
No, yeah, you need to balance it for sure, and you don't want to only present it in that one format, and you want people to hopefully like seek out everything after they see someone do a crazy trick, but do they?
A sport like freestyle motocross, a genre like that, is suffering from some of that right now, where it is really not a sport that is participated in by very many people. But it's a great spectator sport. But because it doesn't have that participation component, it lacks the engine sometimes to drive it. So it relies purely on its spectator value. Yeah. And so it can be manipulated, and it can go.
Luckily,
through
it has a
times
huge one.
It does, but it can also go through rough times because of it. Snowboarding is definitely different in that it has a massive participation component to go with its spectator value.
Yeah, I think there's almost about 6.5 million snowboarders in the U.S. right now. It's not bad.
Yeah.
We're going to check that count. We're going to count it again on Wikipedia. Diana's going to get on it, and then when we come back from this
Hey,
break.
it's Wikipedia. It has to be true.
Red leather, yellow leather. We're going to take our last little break while you guys are frothing at home. But we'll be right back. And I got some more questions like the beginners would do in the snowboard world here, too, when we come back. More of the Action Sports Show. One moment.
It's official. Once again, the truck pros at Toyota of Escondido sold more new Toyota trucks than any other Toyota dealer. That means more smart buyers like you trusted Toyota of Escondido's Truck Center to find them the right truck for work or play.
Toyota of Escondido. Toyota of Escondido.
It makes sense to buy from the truck sales leader. Let Toyota of Escondido customize your new truck to fit your active lifestyle. Choose from lift kits, custom tires and wheels, and much more. Come experience a whole new way to buy your next truck.
Toyota of Escondido.
Toyota truck sales leader for San Diego County for 2014.
You're listening to Guy Talk, broadcasting live from the Sport Clips Haircuts locker room. Caller, you're on the air.
Hey, boxers or briefs?
Speaking briefly, boxers. Unless you're a boxer, then I'd go briefs. Next caller.
I want to find my nearest Sport Clips, but I don't want to ask for directions.
It's not technically asking for directions if you use sportclips.com to find your nearest Sport Clips location, and no one will ever know. Let's take a break for a word from our sponsor, Sport Clips, where guys go to get an awesome haircut while watching sports on TV. Throw in our relaxing massaging shampoo and our legendary hot steam towel, and you've got our MVP haircut experience. Your head will be as majestic as a freshly mowed Major League outfield. Try it today. Last caller, you're on the air with Guy Talk.
So how cool is getting a haircut at Sport Clips?
Oh, it's like stepping up to the plate and slam dunking a touchdown. That's all the time we have today. This has been Guy Talk, brought to you by Sport Clips, where it's good to be a guy.
Hi, this is Sarah Price, and you're listening to the Action Sports Show powered by Toyota of Escondido.
You're on, guys.
Hi, folks. Welcome back to the Action Sports Show, powered by Toyota of Escondido Action Sports. Jim Holthus, Dianna Dahlgren, Brett Guerin, and Dan McGranahan. And we're sitting here talking to Gerhard and Dan. I know you wanted to dive into what we're doing with the Dew Tour.
I do. Feel free if you want to ask them about what it's like to, be a
We'll do that.
beginner,
We'll do
because
that
I don't
later.
want to see you not get your personal, needs met as a beginner. Beginner needs.
We'll have time for that later, apparently.
Wait a
Here's-
minute.
here's
Are
what
you
I
sa-
really
are-
wanna
are
know.
Are you guys implying right now you don't snowboard?
No, I want to. I never had. I wanted to get his.
What? You've never snowboarded?
I never have.
Dude, I'm
Oh
saying
my
the same
God,
thing
dude.
right now.
Okay, we
I've
have
only
to get you
skied.
snowboarding.
Yeah.
I've only skied, and it's been a long time ago because I used to work in a field to where if I had any problems or if like broken a leg or ankle, like I'm out of work. So I didn't do it for that reason. Now, I can do this show from a wheelchair if I have to. It's something I really want to do. Where does a beginner guy learn? What's the best thing? Do you just go do it down the bunny run, or do you take a lesson? Like, what do you do?
I mean, yeah, probably a lesson's good. It's
Yeah?
kind of weird, though, because I was never a lesson person at all. I just have always been, like, dive in and figure it out and take my lumps.
I guess I've cheated. I've gone to the hill and taken like a wagon, stripped the wheels off it, and like made my own before. So,
well, I was a coach up at Camp of Champions,
Oh.
which is a summer camp on the glacier in Whistler. So I can tell you, a couple of basic things. I mean, the number one thing I always saw was people don't bend their knees. I sound stupid, but
Bend
the
your
number
knees.
I would literally just say like pretty much 100 times a day. Hey, the kid would be like, "How come I can't do this trick?" I'm like, "Bend your knees, dude." No, they just like straight legged,
Locked
like
out.
locked out like this. It's crazy. So bend your knees. Don't lean back. The other thing, people get scared, so they start to lean back. They put all their weight on their back leg. They get like 80%
that's
of
going
their
to make
weight.
you shoot out and fall.
You have no control. You got to stay centered. So stay low, stay centered. Just find
Stay
that.
low, stay centered, bend your knees.
That's it. It's a piece of
Kinda
cake.
funny
You got
'cause
it.
it's pretty much the exact same
Yeah.
But I
advice
mean,
give to
that
mountain
creates
bikers.
the optimum balance when starting out.
That's it. Yeah, and take a
then
lesson.
later that
Go up to
night-
Snow Summit. Wait till it's a slushy day.
Yeah, wait till the slushy day because your tailbone.
Wrists and
That's
tailbones.
that's
Yeah,
what that's
right.
what
Tailbone.
well, and back in the day, that's what Boda bags were for to fix those problems. But
What
Boda
what
who?
is that?
When did snowboarders decide, and at sort of what point did snowboarders decide to forgive skiers?
I don't think we really have yet, but it's cool. I think we're.
I think winning is the great sort of thing. Like when you finally are the quintessential, you've won the debate or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's. I think it's it's just us old guys who remember when
That?
the early days when we weren't allowed to go snowboarding on ski hills, and it was actually a big thing, and people were looking at you like, "What are you? Get out of here!" And you would get heckled at ski
I
hills.
seriously couldn't believe it.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. So, but I think that what you see in the new generation is a lot of kids
They're doing both.
They do both.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't care. They just see it as another way to get down the hill. That's a little bit disappointing because I think snowboarding has such a unique culture, and actually a lot of the snowboard culture has really informed the free ski culture. So you don't want to lose those values of snowboarding.
Free skiers are unique though. They're like people from Florida. There's surfers from Florida are really interesting people. Free skiers they're just interesting. They're their own breed.
Their style seems like it's 5 years. We're always wow, that's where we were in the mid 2000s.
Yeah. Oh, you just discovered reggae.
Yeah, it is. I don't know what. It's kind of weird on that front.
Great new form of music.
But no, I mean, yeah, I don't really care that much anymore.
I just like being able to pose the question.
Yeah.
I think the answer is in our ability to pose the question.
I'll always stand sideways. I mean, that's the only way for me.
Yeah. Well, look, we want to get into a couple of things with you. Your role with the Dew Tour. So the Dew Tour is now going to be become a property of 10 Media, correct? Of which you are employed by 10 Media, have been for a long time. They're a conglomerate of magazines and events and all sorts of media properties, basically. Would that be a proper description?
Yeah, so in our building we have Surfer, Surfing, Transworld Snowboarding, Transworld Skateboarding, Snowboarder Magazine.
Moto.
Moto, yeah.
MMA.
Moto, BMX, Bike Mag, Powder, and then actually the New Schoolers guys are still up in Montreal, but we kind of work with them. And then, in LA, we have the whole actually automotive side as well, Motor Trend and all those titles as well.
And those are pretty big.
They are, yes.
Massive.
A little thing called Motor Trend.
You guys also run things like Endurocross and different events, and now you guys are going to be running the Dew Tour.
Yeah. So that's a new one for us, and was really huge. Basically, when we got the contract, I was tapped to be the content director for it. And yeah, it's I can't say a lot about the dates or how it's all going to go exactly yet, but we really wanted to redefine it around the values of creativity and style, which we feel are really central to action sports. I mean, I think the other thing is probably progression, right? Everyone wants to see the gnarliest trick, someone going bigger, further, doing that quad cork. It's an important part, but really the root of what we do, I think, is creativity and doing it in a stylish way that expresses how you ride. So we're really going to put an emphasis on that, and we want to get a little more creative with the courses and some of the contest formats. And we've presented it. The first event is going to be a skate event, and we presented it to some of the skaters, and the feedback's been really great.
Awesome.
Yeah, and we're just looking forward to blowing it up. And it is, I think, it has been a bit in the shadow of X Games and US Open and Street League skateboarding, and we really want to move it into kind of a new dimension that's hey, what those guys do is sick, what they do is great. We want to focus a little more on that creativity and style, so we're just going to move it over here, and this is going to be our space to own.
Love it. I mean, I really want to pose. I want to hit you with some questions, but I don't want to put you in a weird spot. So, let's just say I'm
just
excited.
glad, and I'm glad it's they're going to the endemic media group to kind of take control of it and help guide it, which I think is important.
Yeah, I mean, what's really cool is like a lot of the ideas that came out of this came from the Transworld Skate Crew.
Right.
So
That's
I
awesome.
work with them every day, and it's like, hey, are you guys feeling this? Is this legit? And they're kind of like our guide on that. And yeah,
That's very wise of you to run that by them too, because
with
with skate, man, you could easily get out of their wheelhouse of the moment.
No, yeah, you got to keep it real with skate for sure.
Yeah.
And the snow side, that's my comfort zone.
Right.
I know that, and I'm actually going to be hiring a number 2 that's more on the skate side, and going to really collaborate with those guys.
Now let's talk before we have to go here. Let's talk about what it means to be an action sports family. We basically all grew up now in the shadows of a world that our kids will never know, a world that doesn't have the Dew Tour and the X Games and X Fighters and all these different activities and events. And we're basically the last generation that sort of lived partially without it, but most of our lives with it, most of our memorable lives with it. What does that mean, and how does that change us as a culture and as a genre of action sport?
Yeah, I mean, it's more established, and I think it was just our parents couldn't understand what it was and what we were doing. Like my parents would always be like, "Are you
Totally
sure
lost.
you don't want to try out for the basketball team?" I was like, "No, I'm just gonna bring my snowboard." And then in the winter, I'd bring my snowboard to school every day. I'd bring my skateboard to school every day when there wasn't snow on the ground, and they were like, "We don't get it. Like, what are you doing?" And they're super cool and supportive, but they couldn't really understand it. And then finally, when I started getting photos in the magazine, I actually got the cover of Snowboard Canada winter issue in 2007, and they were like, "Oh, okay, that's cool. Like, we can see you're like doing something with this, And I had contracts with K2 and a couple brands, and then they could understand it was a little more real. But yeah, I mean, now right away, like our kid is just gonna get all that,
Yes.
Like it's like if they want to go down that road, we'll just it's broken for them. The trail is broken. The door is wide open.
And I think that's why you're seeing so much progression nowadays, is that now we're seeing the first generations of kids that are growing up with parents that were either snowboarders or skiers or surfers, and now you're just seeing that next level of people who are going, I've been doing this my whole life and I can't do it. Now an 8-year-old kid's doing it. And I think it's only going to get more and more like that as you see more and more kids come up with parents that were involved with these types of sports.
Yeah, and I mean, I loved fishing when I was a kid. I was never really into hunting, but it's like I'm not going to take my kid hunting necessarily, but I would love to take them out and like build a jump with them or go surfing with them, or like at Calavera, there's some sick mountain bike trails just 10 minutes from our house.
Yeah.
Like I want to go shred out there with our kid, hopefully. And my wife, like as a family, we want to go shredding together.
Bring her too.
Yeah. No, God, she's better than me on a mountain bike by
So
far.
how does as brands, how do we evolve to deal with action sports families? Are we running out of time
We
here?
got about 10 seconds.
You guys have been awesome, and we're going to take this question next time.
I'd like to thank them so much for coming out here and taking the time. I mean, we could go on forever. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much, and hopefully you'll come back here sometime and share with us more with Plus One, right?
Yeah. They won't probably have much to say yet, but we'd love to come back.
Or a lot to say, maybe. We just don't understand, right?
Yeah.
Let's do a baby's first bunny hop. When it's ready for the bunny hop, we'll bring him back.
There you go.
Yeah,
boom.
right here.
Right
By the
here.
way, that 2 hours does fly by, doesn't it? Remember
Told
what you're
you.
saying?
Yeah. Baby's first kick flip. Let's do it all.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks to all of our guests here and all you folks for listening. Don't forget to check us out here every Tuesday, 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. Go to theactionsportshow.com for more information. Follow the social media. Download the podcast. And from all of us here at the Action Sports Show, hope you have a great week. Remember, don't text and drive. We'll see you next time right here, the Action Sports Show.